I will survive, I will survive, and I'm a firm believer. We'll forever strive just to stay alive. That simple means say, nobody can hold me apart, nobody can drain my energy, nobody can turn me sick. I will not allow negativity, nobody can hold me apart, nobody can drain my energy, nobody can. Everybody, some strength, no weakness, show me where I'm from. Strength, no weakness, show them who we are. Strength, no weakness, show me where I'm from. Everybody, strength, no weakness, show them who we are. Not when you're old. Your enemies, they must tremble. Your enemies, they must tremble. Yo, not when you're old. Everything has to handle. Everything has to handle. I'm a go-getter. I does God, and I'm a kind of fella. Put my trust in God, put my trust in God. That simple means say, nobody can hold me back, nobody can drain my energy, nobody can turn me sick. I will not allow negativity, nobody can hold me back, nobody can drain my energy, nobody can. Yo, just show me some strength, no weakness, show me where I'm from. Strength, no weakness, show me. I will survive, and I'm a firm believer. We're friends.
Hey, what's up? What's up?
Nobody can hold me apart. Nobody can change my energy. Nobody can hold me sick. I will not allow negativity. Nobody can hold me.
Okay. Hi guys, welcome to the ride. Welcome to Wednesday on the ride. And thank you guys for joining in. Thank you guys for chiming in, sharing up the thing. Lacey J, how you doing? Big up yourself. You know what? I have to give at the end of the year, and I promise you guys, right? At the end of the year, I'm going to do a Writers Award. Yeah, I'm going to do a Writers Award because you see, there are some die-hard fans of this program from day one, and I just have to know, like Lydia, like Lacey J, like Peter Mitchell. Folks who's here all the time. I thank you guys so much, guys. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Glenda, Ian Baker, Shoma. Yeah, I have to do a ride along award. I promise you guys, end of the year, I'll do a ride along award. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, guys, how you guys doing? Welcome to the ride. Welcome to Thursday on the ride. A lot of stuff happening. So much stuff happening. I hope you guys taking good care of it. Especially, I hope all you take care for your health. When thank you. I hope you take care of your health. I hope all you taking care of each other, family, and all that stuff. Shoma, how you doing? Good night to you, Nellycia. How you doing? So everybody share the program. And I gotta also welcome the folks over at Unstoppable. The Unstoppable crew. Big up yourself, big up yourself. Thank you so much, ACJ. The Ride Along crew love you back. We love you real bad, ACJ. Thank you so much. So show me all your love now. Show me all your love by sharing the program to everyone. Because today we have a few things to talk about. Nelly, how are you doing? There are a few things to talk about. Right? First and foremost, you guys, that was a burning topic from Monday. Didn't get a chance to address it yesterday because I had prior arrangement. I didn't get the writer's feedback on it. So today I decided to bring the story and get you guys chiming in on it. And I have a full panel. Of media personalities, and also I have a young lady on the program who have a very similar story. In fact, she reported this story to us 1 week before Trevorson story, and she's here with us today to tell us where it stands right now. Did she get any justice for it? Yeah, and it was almost the same exact story we had where a young man sexually molested her granddaughter. He was supposed to pay $2,000 and he walked. No jail time, absolutely nothing. Let us share her story with us as well. Thank you so much. Oh, you not hear me well? Let me make sure. I'm not hearing you well. All right. Lydia, are you hearing me better now? All right. How you doing? Jackie Chaitan, how you doing? Big up yourself. Let me know if you guys hear me better now. Before I start, I want to make sure everyone is hearing me good. In fact, let me check it out on my end and make sure. Chaitan, how you doing? Yeah, I'm hearing myself good. All right, Lindy. All right, so let's start, guys. First, you guys know at around was October 17th, 2019, we broke a story here on Ridealong. It was probably one of the stories I was most passionate about because it involved a child. The mother contacted us, and basically what she stated was that a so-called friend or someone that traveled from the US that came into Grenada, who she deemed as a friend, she left her son with the young man. She went out for a little bit, and when she came back, she found out that somehow this man sexually molested her 5-year-old son. We put that story out there. And that wasn't the worst part of it. The worst part of it was she went to court and she was disgusted by the fact that the man didn't get any jail time. Although he admitted to it, he pled guilty for it, he was only asked to pay $1,500 and $600 for 3 therapy sessions. Some crazy arrangement like this. That's it. After the story broke, 2 days or so, a week or so later, the Commissioner of Police filed an appeal to the case, right? But the young man was from the US, so he flew back about the same day or the day after that appeal was filed. People was outraged by the fact that, like, this guy's going to get away with this. Well, let's fast forward now. 2 years or so later, we found out, Monday, we found out that the same man, Trevorson Roberts, who pled guilty in the case in Grenada, who was given a slap on the wrist, or they say like a kiss on the cheeks, he pled guilty in a New York court and could face up to 30 years in prison, right? So we have Dennison George, who is on the panel. He was very instrumental in making sure that this case go forward. But before we get Dennison on, let me see if I could bring on Hopkins, see if Hopkins is there with us. Hopkins, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Junior.
All right, Jerry, hi, welcome. I'm going to jump to your point of view first on this case, because I know you have to go, and then we're going to talk to, we have Gary on the panel as well. We're going to chat with everyone. Hopkins, first tell us your reaction, your initial reaction after you found out what transpired with that child in Grenada.
Well, Junior, before I do that, let me say good evening to all of your listeners and to the folks on the panel. And Junior, I must say I was very happy with the decision of the court here in New York, in the Federal District Court and the Eastern District. And I think justice is being delivered. Unfortunately, it's not been delivered on time where we expected it to be in Grenada, but nevertheless, it has been done. And I want to thank especially, and that's primarily what I want to say, and also say it on behalf of the mother who released a statement, I also want to say on her behalf that it's commendable, and we are thankful for folks like yourself, Junior, Denison George, John Crow, and the others. And I was one of those who was advocating for that very early on, with articles, with commentaries, with phone calls and letters to various agencies and departments. Denison George and I collaborated earlier on that. Denison might confirm that later on. And I'm happy that it has gotten to this point. And my hope is that the reforms that are necessary in due course will be made in Grenada, not just in terms of law enforcement, but also in terms of what we have on the books, the laws we have in place, and in terms of the services available to parents and children to protect their rights and their interests, and in terms of sentencing guidelines that our judges or magistrates would apply the law deservedly and appropriately when need be. And essentially, that's what I want to do. I'm thankful. Folks are talking about the 30 years that is punishable with, but there's more than that. The fact that there will be no parole in terms of the guidelines. Also, there's a possible fine of $250,000, and he must register as a sex offender. And there's more to it, but those are some of the other elements of the possible punishment to be had. And it's also noteworthy that in pleading guilty to the first count, there were two counts, the count of illicit sex act against a minor in a foreign place. He pled guilty to that, but there's also another count or indictment with respect to false statements that were made to U.S. Government agencies. But that is not been labored upon at this point in time. The focus is on count one, which he pled guilty to. But that in itself has a very steep and heavy penalty. And the defendant agreed to, through his lawyers, in the bargaining negotiations that were made with the prosecutor in New York, to agree to up to 235 months, which is 19 years and 7 months. But if the judge decides on May 6th, when we have the sentencing hearing to determine that, the sentence that should be brought upon this defendant, Treverson Roberts, if the judge decides to go with that, to 235 months or less, the defendant will have no right to an appeal, and there will be no parole. So it's important to know that as well. If the judge goes beyond 235 months, which is 19 years and 7 months,
right,
then appeal might be available. So there are some nuances, there's some complex aspects to it, but I just wanted to put that out there so folks know that the system here takes this very serious, sees this as a very serious crime in protecting the rights of children, minors. And I wish that our jurisdiction in Grenada and the wider Caribbean, not just Grenada, the other countries have similar problems. We need to take this more seriously and do all we can to ensure that the rights and the dignity of our children are protected. And that's as much as I care to say right now, Junior. I have another show to do. So unless you have a follow-up question for me, I'm going to take my exit here.
Are you hearing me? Jerry, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Now I'm asking, what went wrong in Grenada? Why is it that the same evidence was presented in Grenada, the same case was presented in Grenada, yet the startling difference of the verdict?
Well, Junior, I'm hearing now that, well, of course, the sentencing guidelines might be different. It's a different jurisdiction. But besides that, I'm learning now that the case wasn't properly prepared. All of the available evidence that the mother of the child made available to the Royal Grenada Police Force wasn't brought before the court, and the judge did not have all of that. That's what I'm hearing. I haven't verified that myself, but I'm learning that. And if that is the case, then we have a lot of work to do, and we have to fix that problem. We have to, if we're going to clean up this problem and do something about the culture and change the way people see these crimes and the number of crimes that have been committed of the sort, we have to approach it seriously. And I think It's lacking in at every point, in every aspect. We have work to do, a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah. All right, Jerry, I know you have to go, but I want to play back this. Jerry, we'll talk later. I want to play back this clip right here. It's an interview
Thank you,
that
and all the best.
all right, no problem. I want to play back this clip, guys, because that's what I'm hearing as well, right? But it's confusing that that is the facts. Now, keep in mind that the same evidence, the same information was presented in Grenada. That's where they got the information to prosecute in the US, right? So the same information. So I brought this question up to Jerry Edwin, who is an attorney at law in Grenada. This was his response.
Not one of those things were in fact true. So what we sometimes hear outside of the court is never what happens inside. The magistrates, and in this particular case, I can assure you, this magistrate does not play when it comes to sexual offenses. In fact, none of them do. I had a client last week, 20-year-old boy, first time he had sex with a girl who was young, under 16, at 20 years old. 11 years in jail. I disagree with that sentence. I'm running, begging and crying to the Court of Appeal. We have all the laws in Grenada which are used every single day, just this morning when I was at court, to prosecute persons who commit sexual offenses. But a magistrate does not know more than the evidence she's presented with. So the problem...
Right. So that's what Jerry Edwin said. But here's the contradiction. I'm going to bring in my panel here to help me understand this. The magistrate don't know more than all the evidence that was presented with. However, the magistrate ruling was that the child gets 6 months of counseling. So obviously the magistrate was aware of something, hence the reason why she ordered to have counseling with the child. If that evidence was never presented, and if the magistrate didn't have any idea as to what happened, or that wasn't presented and brought forth to the magistrate, how the magistrate and why did the magistrate give them $600 to give the child therapy? If nothing happened, she know nothing about it. How and why did the child get $600 for the therapy? Let's bring in the panel here. Probably they can help me understand that. We join now with Gary Roberts. He is a fellow broadcaster in Grenada, and also Mr. Denison George. We have not identified the relations as yet, but we probably soon will. Denison and Gary, help me understand this, right? The magistrate, the magistrate, it is said that the magistrate was not presented with the full extent of the case. However, $600 was allocated for the child counseling. Do you understand where I'm going with my line of misunderstanding? My misunderstanding here?
Jerry, are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing. Go ahead.
All right. Let me just say this, Jerry. My.
It's Junior, by the way.
Junior, you hear me?
Jerry left.
Okay. Let me just say this. My bread is not butter by the government of Grenada. My bread is not butter by favoritism. There's one answer for that ruling: corruption, nepotism, and favoritism. Okay, there is one answer for that. The judge made that decision based on corruption, favoritism, and nepotism. There is no way you could accept, when a judge accepts a guilty plea from a defendant, as a judge, you have to ask the defendant, you know what you're pleading guilty to. That judge was quite aware. I don't care how sloppy the police case was, which the police denied. The police denied that they had provided a sound and a solid case to that judge. Now, let me say this. That judge is a mother. She has children. Okay? Let me explain this to you. That case was properly prepared and presented to the judge. He pleaded guilty. The judge knew what he pleaded guilty to. He admitted to the judge what he did, that he had this young 5-year-old child perform a sex act on him. What more evidence do you want than that? That judge should have stand up and said, no, you're going to prison for 10 years, 20 years for what you did. She didn't need no book. She didn't need no alphabet. She didn't need no dictionary. She didn't need no law school. Any normal person in Grenada, any normal person in any society of the world, someone come to you and say to you that someone did that to a child, you would be angry, you would be crazy, and you might do something crazy. That judge should have did the right thing, and she did not do the right thing. And if she didn't want to rule, for example, if she didn't like the police case, she should have just stepped aside and say, I'm gonna send this case back to send it back to the High Court or send it to the High Court. She could have easily said that. No one in Grenada was gonna be angry with that judge if she had given this guy 20 years in prison, 100 years in prison. But these people, they underestimate the intelligence of the Grenadian people. And they think they could do this kind of stuff, and they continue doing this kind of stuff, and they think they could get away with it because no one would complain. And that's why he got a slap in the wrist. And not only he tried to evade justice in Grenada, they put him on the next flight, and American airline, and have him leave Grenada. This was a well-organized, orchestrated plan to get this guy out of Grenada and to no justice for this family. If a young man from a poor family in St. Andrews or in Guava or in Victoria had did this, trust me, he would have been in Richmond Hill Hotel today. If this child was from a rich family in Grenada, he would have been in Richmond Hill Hotel today. He got away from justice in Grenada because of corruption, nepotism, and don't forget, his lawyer was the husband of one of the ministers in government. I'm not saying because of that relationship, that verdict came across, but I am going to tell you, nothing but corruption. This is Grenada, and this is what happened in Grenada when you have influence and you have money. Justice does not serve when it is required.
Gary, chime in here and help us understand, right? Because again, what the people are saying, is that the police here are well put together case to present, so the judge can make the decision that you have. I mean, if there is no evidence to show that this happened, then she can rule on it. That charge was not presented. Yet, he put in $600 in guilty plea for the child counseling. Help us understand it.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Gary, go ahead.
All right. Well, two things that jump.
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Right now, two things that jump out at me. All right. Forget the fact that there were text messages that was very public. You know, it was on the internet. It was on WhatsApp. I mean, the fact that he confessed and asked for apology and all of that stuff. That putting that aside, we also have to take into consideration that this man, and this is where insult really is, in my opinion, as a father. All right. The state got more money than the victim or the parents of the victim. All right. The state got $1,500. The family got what? $600. All right. That right there shows insults. And Denison made mention, and when you appeared on my program, Junior George, the other day when we spoke about this, we did speak. I did mention the elites, you know, and how they are treated compared to others. And Denison made mention to that. And I think that is showing up its ugly face in this scenario right here. But I think the evidence, and I know for a fact the evidence is right there. The mere fact that man had confessed, what other evidence do you need apart from that?
Yeah, that is so right. Guys, we're talking about this case. We're talking about this case, and we're not going to stop talking about this case. We've been talking about this case for going on 2.5 years right now. It happened in Grenada in 2019. There was absolutely no justice for the family. The family was the mother was so disgusted by what happened, right? That she felt like she had no other recourse than to take it to social media. She brought it to social media. She spoke up on it. And a week or so after we spoke out on it, the video went viral. The Royal Grenada Police Force filed an appeal to the case. So if we rewind a bit, If say we never brought it out, say we didn't talk about it, say the video she never spoke out, say the video never made it to surface on any platform whatsoever, what would have become of this case? But he made a big miscalculation and a big mistake when he did it. The assertion is that he tried to evade justice, run back to New York. So he came back to New York and he run from the frying pot straight into the fire. Denison George was on the case and he didn't let up. Denison, tell us how you became familiar with that case.
Well, after the verdict, I remember when the incident happened. You know what happened? There is a law in Grenada that you don't talk about. The prosecutor's office or the police not supposed to discuss these kind of cases because it's involving a minor. And a lot of times, what I realized, the incompetency of the whole justice system in Grenada hide behind that law, because when they messed up, they say we can't discuss in public. So you don't know when they mess up until things like that happen. Now, I got a call from a couple of people in Grenada and said, listen, this guy just got off with murder. You guys in the diaspora have to do something. He's back in New York. Especially, I got a call from a sister from La Poterie and Poetry in St. Andrews, and she said, Denison, you have to do something. This guy is back in New York. This is what he did. And he left Grenada. They got him out on American Airlines. And the same time, I think I got a call from you, Jerry. And I think you, Junior, I got a call from you, Junior. And I spoke to the mother. And then after seeing that woman on your show, I said, we have to bring this guy to justice. So I immediately got on the phone and I called a couple of acquaintances of mine at the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, former DAs. And I said, this is what just happened in Grenada. They couldn't believe. And they asked me to send them the documents that I have on the case. When I didn't hear back in a day or two, I called the New York State Attorney General's office and I filed a complaint. I said, we have to get this guy on the sex offenders registry. We have to get you guys involved. This guy is in Brooklyn. And we have to get down to what happened in Grenada. Then 2 days later, I called the FBI. And then I visited the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan and I presented all the documents, all the case. I was in touch with the Brooklyn DA's office and the State Attorney General's office a few days later. And there was a young lady from St. Andrews, as I said, who was instrumental. She got his phone number, she got his church, she got his address, and she was feeding me all the information about him, his whereabouts, and I was feeding them to the proper authorities. Then I didn't hear from anyone for a while until this he pleaded guilty. But I just want to commend that mother of that child deserves an award. She did not let down. She went all the way. She went to social media. She took to every opportunity that was available to her to make sure that she received justice. And so we have to mention that she did not let up. The system in Grenada failed her. The justice system in Grenada, police, everyone failed her. But thank God, justice is done. He pleaded guilty, and he'll be going to prison for a very, very long time. But you know, that's what I have to say. Junior, I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, you hear me now. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Before Gary, I will bring you on, but before I do that, I want to bring in another young lady who appeared on the program exactly 1 week before we broke the story with Trevorson, right? And tell me if you guys see a pattern here. Let me bring her on and tell me if you guys see a pattern. Sherlyn, welcome to the ride. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm here.
Sherlyn, what happened in the case involving your granddaughter?
Yes, Junior. When the thing happened, Junior, I went to the guy. Me, the father, the mother, and the child went to the guy because the mother said she was going.
What transpired? What happened? Because a lot of people don't know the story. Give us a little information, background information on your story and how it correlates and relate a little bit to what happened.
Right. So go to the starting. Go to the starting.
A bit and just explain a little bit what happened.
The other morning, my son tell me the mother of the child call him and tell him come up. The child has something to tell him.
Right.
So I say okay. So when he come back, I find he was just moving strange, you know. So I say come. I say what already happened to the child? He say And he had to shake his head. So he tell me that the child tell him that the guy used to put her lie down on the mattress, put grease on her, and rub his penis on her and play up with her. But this guy used to be at the home. He was a kind of family member. He used to be there cooking for two disabled while the mother go to work.
Right. So stop right there. When you say this guy, it is not it's not Trevorson we're speaking about, right? This is a totally separate and different case.
Yes.
So this other person was somehow sexually molesting your granddaughter. How old was your granddaughter?
She was 3. She was 3 years old.
She was 3 years old.
Yeah, she was in pre-primary school.
Tell me what happened when you went to court.
Right. When we went to the court, first of all, since when we went to the CID to give statement, and when they arrest the guy, when I heard was $2,000 bail. I said, $2,000 bail? So I said, what charge is that? So when we went to the court in the morning, and they read the charge, they read the magistrate, the prosecutor read the charge. He say he assaulted the child, and he plead guilty for touching her. So he assaulted her. So I say, what kind of assault? He sexually assaulted the child. I said, where is the evidence? What bring forward to the court? I said, that is not the evidence. I want the evidence. The magistrate asked them to put me out of the court, right? They put me out of the court because I was getting upset because the evidence I know we bring for to make a case, he wasn't there. He said he assaulted her, which he also said he sexually assaulted her because, so when I went outside, soon after I see the mother come crying. I said, what happened? She said the magistrate charged the guy for assaulting the child, $3,000 for the court, and then he asking her, how much do she want? So she tell him, so I didn't come here for money, I come for justice for my child. Because the guy came to her and he admit and he tell her he's sorry, you don't have to go to jail. Any money she wants, he will give her. But she said no.
He admitted that he actually did that to the child.
Yes, he admitted to the mother, he admitted to me. Because before we went to the court, me, the mother, and the father went to him and speak to him. And he admitted.
How many times did the child allege that he molested her? About how many times she said?
She told the mother, when she was counting about 12 times, the mother said, stop. More than 12 times. More than 12 times.
And how many times, what was the report that the police investigator wrote on the statement that was presented to the court? How many times? What did they wrote as a charge? Just assault?
Well, listen to me. When the child was saying how many times, so I asked the lady, she was I asked her, I said, so as the child could repeat how many times he did it, so how many charges he would be getting? She told me he only could get one charge. But I wasn't pleased. I know she was just trying to chick me head. So I went to a CID man and I asked him, so because he repeatedly doing the child that, how much charge he could get? He said he could get how many charges? Severe charges he could get. Right? So she was just trying to pull me head. So I said, okay, all right. Well, I realized something was happening there since before. Because you're going to take a lawyer, and the lawyer will go and speak to the magistrate, and the lawyer tell the magistrate that he not in here, something so. So I understand. But Junior, listen to me. The boy is a fisherman. He captain of a boat. And you telling me he not up there? He's okay. He's an okay guy. He captain in a boat. When you go there and see, you have to get direction and read the map where you from and where he's okay. So they have an excuse because he had a lawyer and he feel we didn't have a lawyer.
Right. So here how this story is crazy and why I think both stories kind of overlap. Denison, you heard what she said, right? Basically, what happened was sexually molested, go to court, the court charge $3,000, give the parent X amount of dollars, and the police investigator, whoever put up the charge.
No, they didn't give they didn't give the parent no money. Listen, the court charged $3,000 for the court. And then they ask the mother, how much do she want? So she don't end up getting no money because she don't want no money for her child. She wants justice. So they leave her go with nothing.
Denison, chime in right here. Is that now looking like a culture of miscarriage of justice in the system?
Well, I don't practice law in Grenada. I practice law here in the United States. But are you hearing me, Junior?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Well, I don't practice law in Grenada. I practice law in the United States. But as I'm very aware of the situation when it comes to crime against sexual exploitation of children and crime, I think Grenada is number one in the Caribbean when it comes to sex abuse of minor children. And it's an every month, a couple months occurrence. You hear about these cases. I know someone right now who is on bail in Grenada. More than one person for sexually abusing their stepchildren. Look at that guy in St. David's who raped his daughter repeatedly over a 7-year period. Since she was 7 years old, and he's out on bail. So the justice system, as if you read the brief from the federal court following the guilty plea of Trevison Robbins, it's like Grenada is a laughing stock. You know, that have to stop. These crimes have to be taken seriously. These men need to be going to prison for the rest of their lives and even facing the death penalty. And this is everyday. This is a everyday occurrence. When I'm in, and I could tell you, I write a lot of articles on Grenadian Women Inc. regarding this subjects of child abuse, sexual incest in Grenada. And it's too regular, it's occurrence. This have to stop, and the government and the justice system in Grenada have to get serious. They have to get serious and do something about this. This is becoming it's out of control. It is out of control. Too many old men in Grenada is going with young girls. I'm not sure how to describe it, but I'm happy that justice was served in this case. And it's a warning. There is a lot of men that leave the US and Canada and go to the Caribbean for carnival and places like Grenada and hoping to pick up the youngest girls when they go there. So they know if you leave America and you go to Grenada and you have sex with a minor, when you come back here, the US justice system could prosecute you and you could end up doing 30 years in jail. But Grenada justice system had to step up. After the Ariel fiasco, with the young child was murdered, I really thought things was going to change, but they do these crimes. They get a few years at Richmond Hill Hotel. They go up there, they spend 5 years, and they come back and they do it again.
Yeah, Gary, hearing all of this, right? Hearing all of these things, and this is not one instance. I've been on Ridealong for 4.5 years, and there are countless times that I could go back and show videos where it had to hit the media before the police act. It had to hit the media before something happened. It had to hit the media before they do anything. In about 7 different cases, I could show you guys videos that we teach on. What really happened? Is it now that the pedophiles and would-be pedophiles and these guys feel now like they have a free reign, they can do what they want because they don't check in on them?
Well, I cannot speak as to what's in the minds of pedophiles in Grenada, but I can tell you how embarrassing this situation looks for us here in Grenada. But I really don't want to say no, George, because when I hear this lady spoke and you cross-reference that with the situation with this Roberts guy, then you realize that there is a pattern, and you can go as far back as possible. And other cases, please forgive me with I'm doing fatherly duties here, all right? And you see there's a correlation, right? You see there's a connection, all right? Someone goes and steals someone's produce in the garden, and he gets slapped with X amount of dollars and how many years in prison, right? We don't see a similar level of treatment when it comes to pedophiles and people who abuse the innocent children. And we are setting a precedence, and we are sending a message to the wider world. You know what I mean? There are some, and I would like Denison to answer this question, because I'm not disputing what took place as far as the verdict or the situation that is fitting with the said individual. But there are some people here in Grenada, and Denison can chime in on this, but there are some people here in Grenada who feel a little bit unsettled over what's happening, in the sense that a decision has been rendered here in Grenada, and they are speaking in a case of jurisdiction, and the United States might be overstepping their boundary, and maybe Dennison can put shed some light on that, so probably educate the masses, if you will.
Well, let me say this: the people who are making that argument about the U.S. overreaching, they are still suffering from of no, they're still suffering the ill effect of the invasion. They still hook up in that U.S. invasion of Grenada, and they still the U.S. What the U.S. did in intervening in this case had absolutely nothing to do with overstepping, overreaching on Grenada's sovereignty. Absolutely nothing. In the US, we have a problem here in the US where American men are traveling to foreign countries and abusing children. They go to Indonesia, they go to India, they go to Haiti, they go to Thailand, they abuse young children, have sex with young boys, young girls, and they come back to the United States and nothing happened to them. So in 2006, Congress passed a law that if you're an American citizen and you go to any country in the world and you abuse a child, when you come back here, you will be held responsible and you will be brought to justice. If this had happened in China, he would have faced the same justice. Remember, he used his computer in the United States to befriend this child's mother. That's how this is what the predators do. He befriended the child mother. He goes to Grenada to be ordained a minister under that pretext. The mother took him in for a couple of days. She left him with the child to go to the pharmacy, and then he abused the child. He's an American citizen. America, there is a law here in this country called the PSC Act. And this act gave the government a long arm where they could reach and take an American citizen any part of the world you are and bring you here to face justice for molesting children. That's a good law. And I'm pretty appalled to hear anyone make this into some kind of American Grenada kind of nonsense. Who the hell care where he found justice? If it was in China, I don't care where he got 30 years. Everyone should be happy that he's going to pay for what he did to this little boy. And I think those who are making that argument about sovereignty, it's more than that. They have some other thing that they're concerned about.
I think what has to be understood right now, Treverson is not a resident of the U.S. He's a U.S. citizen.
And even if he was a resident, he still could have been charged.
Okay, all right.
Because that statute, that act that he's been charged under, it's a very broad act. It says children. You don't say American children.
Right.
So I'm sure if you Grenadian, you molest children in Grenada, and there is proof when you come to America. You remember you deal with the international laws. There is a lot of international law regarding child trafficking, child exploitation. Yeah. And and I'm sure even though he was not an American, the U.S. government could have still bring some charges against him under international law. But his prosecution was basically because he's an American citizen. And don't forget, he also lied to Custom and Immigration, and that's another charge that he's facing, which carries a long to prison time. He was asked on that form when he landed at JFK Airport whether he have committed a crime abroad, and he said no. So
right. So here's what's happening if this guy like in Sherlene's case, the incident happened in Grenada by a Grenadian. The person is not a resident or a citizen of the United States. The United States, that particular law cannot automatically reach in and touch into this particular case. They have no jurisdiction. So it's not a matter of they reaching into a sovereign country. They are following the citizens wherever they go and penalizing them here, right? And I think that is a good law. I don't see nothing wrong with it, because look at Sherlene's case right now. Sherlene, what came of that case? What came of that case as today? What's the current status of that case?
Well, they just leave it so. I mean, the Grenada the court got 3,000, and we got embarrassment. We got embarrassment. Unjust. We never get justice. They never come back to us. They never take the child for counseling. They never meddle of nothing, because the mother says she don't want no money for her child. So they just leave it like that. I did make an appointment to go and see the DDP, but the coronavirus come around and then they didn't want people to visit because I wanted to go and speak to him on behalf of that because really speaking, I don't live in that just so. I don't because that click me head every minute that click me head, especially when I heard what happened to the little boy. And I'm so glad he get justice. And Junior, trust me, I really need justice for my child because Junior, listen, the child had an infection. And listen to me, Junior, carefully. The child had an infection, right? They bring the child to the doctor. When the mother come back, the mother tell the father, the doctor says she wanted to call police for her because somebody is interfering with the child's vagina. Okay? She was scared. When he come and tell me that, I say, well, no. What happened with her? Because when she come down to me, I will spend weekend by me. She say, Mommy said, don't bathe me with soap in my vagina. I say, no, I don't put soap. But it's to burn her, Junior. It's to burn her. Because it's to play up too much with her and he make it tender. Because he used to put hair grease. The good child explain everything, you know. He used to put hair grease. She put her hair grease on her and rub up his penis on her. Junior, that is so hurting. I don't want to talk. I don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Junior, no, that's so painful for me, Junior. You don't know how painful it is. You know how painful. And where that happened with the child and that rig up again, Junior, that does take effect on me right about now. And I spoke to you about it. Junior, I need justice for my child. The other day, she was coming down with me. She don't spend weekend, and I was going back and bring her up in Nonpareil. She saw him. She said, Grandma, I thought he had to be in jail. I said, no, baby, he didn't go in jail now. She said, Grandma, why? And you know, it touched me a lot, eh? And right now, she's 6 years old. Okay? Mm-hmm. Junior, this hard for the child, and Junior is hard for me. I know it's hard for the father, and I know it's hard for the mother. But Junior, I don't live in that so because my decision was when I go down to Grenada, I'm in Florida now, I go into the DDP, I have some documents, what I had from the court and what we had, I put it in a safe place. Junior, I saved that document. I said that document have to give me satisfaction. I saved that document, so I have it to bring to the DDP to make them know. But Junior, that I didn't get justice and I need justice for my child, Junior. Trust me. The child don't get $1. She don't get no therapy. She don't get nobody visitor. Junior, nobody cares. Nobody. I went to social services. I went to child protection. Oh Lord, I'm tired, Junior. Well, I told you, I'm tired. But I don't give up. Trust me. I don't give up. I know I just want justice and they have to give me justice.
And I'll just see what I'm talking about how these stories parallel each other. The only difference here is that Treverson was an American citizen. If he wasn't coming back to the US here, nothing would have become of that case. It would have been just like how Sherlyn sharing our story right now. That is what would have been happening. Denison, is it that the laws are there but are not being implemented? There's no laws there at all. What is it?
Let's start tonight. Remember what Sherlyn just said. He pleaded guilty or there was some court ruling. What Sherlyn to do, let's start tonight by saying his name. Don't be frightened. Put his name out right now. Let the people in the audience know what his name is. That's how you're going to start getting justice. Put his name out. And what you should do, Sherlyn, get a picture of him. Get someone to design a poster of him. And I'll send the money for you to print the poster and put that poster all over Grenada, letting people know that this individual, because you remember, there is already a court ruling that this individual is a pedophile and he's a sex offender. So let's put his name out. Let's get his name on the air tonight.
Yes.
And let people know who he is.
Well, what already happened? I already know the guy's name. Junior, you had his name? I gave you his name?
No, I didn't get his name. And listen, the audio was shared with me. The nature and how he said that incident happened. Heart-wrenching.
But Junior, let's start by getting his name out there. As I told the mother, get a photo. I'm going to pay to do the posters. I'll send her the money to do the posters. And we'll put it all over Grenada. Let people know who this guy is. Start shaming him. That's how you're going to start shaming him, and then people are going to start asking questions, and then we need to know who the magistrate is, and that's how you're going to get justice. And trust me, justice will be coming to him, because if he did it to your child, trust me, he did it to another child, and it's just a matter of time. But get his name. Let's put his name out there, and that's why Grenada need a sex offenders registry, so people like that, the whole country could know what people like that, what the crime they have committed against children. And I mean, I'm kind of surprised, and I usually say, where is the men in Grenada? The real men, like my father, to protect children and their nieces and their nephew. And I mean, I don't understand what's going on. I really don't. Maybe Gary could elaborate a little bit, but...
Yeah, Gary, coming here. Also, guys, come on, let me just say this, that guys, we open up the phone lines right now. I want you guys to call. If you're in Grenada, or if you're anywhere, Jamaica, where have you, and you're watching this, and you know of a situation like this, or you probably don't know of a situation like this, and you just want to input on the topic, give us a call. 718-701-5720. Call us right now. The lines are open at any point to just express how you feel about this particular case. You can also call on the WhatsApp. Gary, go right ahead.
It's a shame. It's really a shame. That we here. First of all, Grenada has a hush. There is this hush society that is still with us to this day in this modern society, and a lot of people are afraid to call names. A lot of people rather keep things within the family and dash it under the rug. That sort of culture, fortunately, still exists here in Grenada. That's a sad reality, and it's really disturbing to hear that the state is making money off of these cases, and the victims or the perpetrators are being just pretty much hit with a slap on the wrist. All right, but we really need to do something about this, because this is not how we want to be known, and this is not how we want to be viewed by the wider community, by the rest of the world. And this is really putting us in a bad light, especially with this latest case here with the Roberts guy. That is really, shining a light on Grenada, and it's not shining. It's not looking good at all. But the hush culture in Grenada has to change.
Well, and you said right. I think it's somewhat of a culture, because they say when the fish start to rotten from the head, So what's up there? Like who's up there is allowing situations or not allowing the justice to go through the pipelines? Who up there is preventing it? Or is that the case at all? Because I don't understand, and I'm trying to be very open-minded to both sides of the story, right? But this is not the first time we cover in a story like this. It's not even the fifth time, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the 7th to 8th time that I'm hearing stories where a man sexually abused a child, the man go to court, he get a slap on the wrist, and now, I'm not saying that all stories end like this, because after speaking to Jerry Edwin yesterday, Jerry Edwin said that he just came from court with a client, and someone sexually molested someone else, and the person got 11 years, right? So there are situations where it runs, but why are we seeing this over and over and over and over again?
But the situation is very glaring.
Yeah,
it's very glaring. How did something like that happen to slip through the cracks?
Yeah. And what needs to happen is that you have to make a serious example of somebody. Because if you don't make a serious example of somebody, they would be pedophile or they would be predators. They're not going to be deterred. They're not going to say, well, you know what, this thing looks serious, boy. But if somebody is getting charged more for stealing a coconut in telescope than damaging a whole child, they're going to do it. Somebody needs to make an example of. So yesterday, Dennis, I want you to jump on it and answer. Yesterday, somebody asked me a question. They said, what, 30 years? Do you think that the time is worth the crime? Dennis, what's your take?
Well, Junior, in federal prisoners don't like prisoners that sexually molested children. So he's definitely going to be placed in a special isolation or in some special holding cell, because you know what happened to people that commit crime, sexual crime against children in U.S. prison. They don't have it each time. Now, Professor Robinson will be doing a long time, and he have enough time to process and to think what he did for this little child. But you know what he did to this little child. But you know what? We have to focus now on the focus have to be shift on helping this little boy move forward with his life and try to recover and have a normal life as possible. That have to be the focus. But you know, up to today, you know, not one of the 4 women ministers of St. Andrews has stepped forward and say, you know what, justice is done. They haven't spoken out. They haven't said anything about this case. And when you have elected official, you know, someone called me last night and said one of the ministers wanted to thank you for the job you did in this case. I said, tell the minister don't thank. Why shouldn't go public and say it? I called the child's mother. When you have even elected officials refusing to come out and make a statement regarding this case and just say justice is done, regardless of who they offend and not, that tells a lot of how much work have to be done in Grenada regarding this kind of situation. We have to put our children first. Judges, Grenada need to change the system where you have any crime against a child must be a strict liability crime. You have sex with a 12-year-old, no excuse. You don't care, you didn't know how old she was, she looked older, no excuse. That's what you call a strict liability crime. And the system have to change when it comes to sentencing. You have to have what we have here with the federal system, a guideline that judges must follow that guideline when it comes to sentencing for these kind of crime. So you don't have judges like this judge doing a favor for a favor, or know someone, or you know, or connected with someone, and they give. When you rape a woman in Grenada, 20 years or 30 years in prison or the death penalty. Strict, no sideways, no, you violated a child sexually, 20 to 30 years in prison, no, or the death penalty. When these kind of cases start getting those kind of sentence and men are start going to jail for messing with young girls and young boys in Grenada, you're going to see this thing stop. You're going to see it stop. But right now, they get a slap on the fist. They go to Richmond Hill Hotel. They spend a few years there. They live, they have the best view in Grenada, and they come back out, and the same thing happened. So they have to be a proper change. There have to be a change in the system with the policing, in terms of you have to train the police to do proper investigation. I listen, Grenada have this so bad that I think a special department is needed within the Royal Grenadian Police Force to only handle these kind of crime. Send a few of these officers abroad to be properly trained in handling sex crime against women and children, and create a separate unit, and their focus would be strictly on these kind of crimes. And then you have strict liability, and then you have a system of guidelines for judges to follow, 20, 30 years of death penalty for these kind of crimes, then you would see things start changing. But when you have elected officials even refusing to even call this kid mother and say, you know what, we're happy you receive justice, because they're frightened who they're going to offend and who they're friends with, this is never going to end in Grenada. And this is the culture, and I pray to God that this would stop, because if we don't save our young girls and young boys in Grenada, we are doomed as a nation. And it's going to repeat itself over and over, because every studies have shown when children are violated as children, when children are abused as children, they become abusers later on in life. So you think of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Earlier, right before the show, we received a statement from the mother on the of the victim. She's saying here that I'll read an excerpt from it, but we also post the entire release on the Ridealong page. She's saying, a long last justice being delivered. And she's happy. She said that the justice which should have been served against Treverson Roberts, the perpetrator of the deplorable crime which he committed against her 5-year-old son in Grenada on October 2019, was Monday, December 13, 2021, delivered in the American Court of Law when the said perpetrator pled guilty on having committed an illicit sex act against the minor in a foreign place. She went ahead to thank you, Dennis and George, Ridealong, Jerry Hopkins, and everyone who played, John Crow, and everyone who played an integral role. And she said, thanks for the support from everyone. It's a pretty lengthy release. So the whole thing is over there on the ride. But the mother feel as if things are moving in the right direction. The mother feeling like she feeling happy about it. And the child, she said, I just spoke to her before we came on. She said the child is doing well, but he still needs assistance. He still, she has good days and bad days, and it's still bad for the child. So on the question of if the time were the crime, I say that. Listen, I answer it like this. I said, does the time worth the crime for the child? The child was just there being a child, an innocent child. No, he is forever damaged for a lifetime. He is for a lifetime damaged. Did the crime what did the time what his crime? He didn't do any crime. The child was just being a child. So if if Treverson was to get 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, he'll come out and he'll still be Treverson, right? But the child will forever be damaged. And in any situation, that's what would happen. So the crime to me is certainly, the time is certainly worth the crime. We'll know for sure in May, after May 6th, what kind of sentencing he's given. Denison, from your legal stance, your legal background, what are you seeing in terms of sentencing? Because he's probably a first time, and then he pleaded guilty.
Well, under the federal system, it cannot. There is a minimum. The minimum, I think, is 10 or 17 years. So the judge cannot give him less than 10. I think it's 10 or 17 years. 10. And I think the maximum is 30 years. So he might be getting somewhere around 20 years, 15 to 20 years in federal prison. Don't forget, Junior, in federal prison, there is no parole. So he's not coming out early. There is no parole, there is no probation. So he has to do all the time. Now let's hope also the Royal Grenadian Police Force is appealing his sentence in Grenada. So if the appeals court, and I'm really hoping that this ruling, this verdict in the United States will some way have some kind of effect on the appeals court in St. Lucia to overturn that $600 sentence. Now, if it happens that court in St. Lucia overturn that sentence that was rendered by that Grenada judge, he could be facing another 10, 20 years in Grenada. So he could do 15 to 20, 30 years here. And then if the police department in Grenada win that appeal, he could be doing another 20 years in Grenada later on. But you know what? No time in prison could give back that child what was taken away from that child. No time in prison. No time in prison can fix the Grenada system of injustice when it comes to handling these kind of crime against children, and especially crime against women. So we just have to pray and hope that this child, as you know, I'm willing to render any assistance that I can towards his therapy, towards his rehabilitation. I'm also thinking of contacting the New York State Crime Victim Services to see if they were willing to render financial servicing, paying for his therapy, maybe even have him come here to the US to receive therapy or have some kind of online therapy process. So I'm currently already contacted the New York State Crime Victim Services, seeing that the prosecution was done here, to see if there is any way that they would render some kind of assistance to help with this child going forward. But let's just pray and hope that he grew up and he don't remember what happened and he's not damaged for life. Let's pray that, because no time in prison could give back that child and that mother what was taken from them. Nothing you could do.
Right. I want to wind up everything here now, but bring everything into perspective. So we all could learn from this. Everyone who watching could learn from this. Gary, who do you think, or where do you think the ball was dropped? Where was the bottleneck in the situation here? What was the problem? From you looking in as from a layman's perspective.
Junior, it's really hard to answer that question given the fact that evidence was right in front of everyone. Was it Jerry Edwin that spoke earlier on when he said that different set of evidence was presented in court? I mean, obviously the ball was dropped in the court of law. That's where the ball was dropped, because evidence was right there. all the evidence pointing his admittance to the crime, that was right there. So that's where the ball was dropped. It falls square in the lap of the justice system in Grenada. And that's just the way I see it. It falls square in the lap of the justice system, which has once again failed us protecting our most valued assets here in Grenada.
Yeah. Dennison, who dropped the ball?
Jerry, even if Johnny Cochran had tried that case, you would have the same verdict. There is a reason, there is no coincidence why he hired the Minister of Carriacou husband to be his lawyer. It's corruption, nepotism, and favoritism. This was well organized, well orchestrated. For example, they bought a ticket for him to leave Grenada the same evening. How did they know what verdict was going to be rendered? Think about it. How did they know that he wasn't going to Richmond Hill prison the same day? This was well orchestrated. That's why he had a plane ticket waiting. They knew what was coming. And as soon after the verdict was read, he went to the airport, he got an American Airlines, and he left Grenada. It's corruption, nepotism, and favoritism. That's why he was able to evade justice in Grenada. Nothing more.
Yeah. As I said, some people say that was one of the biggest mistakes that he probably made coming back here.
Second biggest mistake after messing with that child.
Second biggest mistake was coming back here, not knowing that the long arm of the law is going to get you. Charlene, just chime in here again. What's next for your case? What are you going? Where do you see this? I know you said that it's like it's a done deal, but you're still fighting on, and we're fighting on with you as well. Where you plan to go next with it?
Well, Junior, my plan was when I go back Grenada, go to the DDP and who in authority to have a chat with them to ask them why the case end up like that, because they have to present the evidence that I present. I want to see the evidence what the child give and what they present to the court, because I know the evidence the child gives is not that they present to the court. That is why they give him that charge and say he assaulted her. But they didn't say sexually assault. They say he just assault. And that's why I get powers for. So I need all that clarification on that. And I will ask who I could go to ask about the case, because Junior, trust me, that case just down my mind. The justice just bothering me. I could tell you that. Because you're asking the mother how much you want for the child. Now come on. That disrespect. The court disrespect us to the fullest. It disrespect the child. It disrespect the parent. It disrespect the whole people. I mean, it's real hard. How much you want for your child? I don't want money for my child. And that's it.
Yeah.
Junior, well, I need help, Junior. I mean, if anybody know who I could go to or they could contact me, please, I want people to contact me or give me people who I could contact, because I don't know much who I could contact. If I get people I will.
Charlene, what you could do, send Junior George the information you have, his name, and any other information, any photos, anything you could find with him. And I'm going to forward it to Grenadian. I'm going to forward it to Grenadian Women Inc. and 200,000 people are going to know who he is and what he did. Let's start there.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, let's start there. Thank you very much.
And then we'll call for justice. We'll call for justice. Yeah, I'm not showing the laws regarding double jeopardy in Grenada, but public shame might be, maybe your option right now. And because I don't know if he could be tried twice. I'm not showing the charges that he faced in Grenada, but let's start with publicly shaming him and hope that something would lead from that and take it there. Let's see what would happen.
Okay.
All right. Gary, wrap up words for you before we shut it down.
Yeah, definitely. Too many women are fighting this battle alone, from what I see here, and we need to get more men in Grenada to step up and be a lot more vocal where this is concerned. I think that's where we should be headed. We need to find more fathers, more men there like Dennis and George to step to the forefront and rally the troops. And let's see how we can change this culture in Grenada, because it's not reflecting good on us, and it's not for our future as far as those kids are concerned. Because like Anderson said, we are raising we're raising a generation of kids around and just continue to create that cycle.
Cycle.
And we need to nip it in the bud.
Right. Thank you so much.
Junior, let me just say that in closing, Junior. The situation it's bigger than what we're discussing here. There is also economic aspect to this. You know, I hear all the time people say, you know, sometimes the abusers is the breadwinner of the family. There's a lot of women in Grenada without jobs, without money. And sometimes they hook up with some of these guys who are abusing their children, but they're frightened if they go to the police, the financial support would stop. The financial help they're getting from these men would cut. All I have to say, if you're a woman in Grenada and you're under that predicament where you're living with an abuser, he's abusing your children and you know it, and the things is hard and you don't have money and you're frightened that he would cut your financial support off if you go to the police or do something, I am telling you, it was saving your children. Cut your loss and try to save your children. Go to the police, go somewhere and expose those bastards. That's what I have to say. You know, I know there is a lot of wider area with this, you know, in terms of economics and, you know, and financial hardship. And a lot of women find themselves in these kind of situations and don't know how to get out of it. There is one way to get it, and there is nothing worth losing your children. Because as Gary just said, when abusers become abusers, abuse become abusers, and it's a cycle. And if we don't stop it, it's gonna go on to the next generation, on and on. So something has to be done.
Absolutely. I'm gonna give my viewers one last opportunity to call in. The phone lines, I thought it was open, but in fact it was not. So I'll give you guys the opportunity to call in right now, 718-701-5720. This is a topic that we're not going to stop. This is a subject matter, although some of you guys, I don't know, might be thinking that we talk too much about child molestation and another one. Yeah, we go keep talking about it. It's essential. We have to keep talking about it. And we also ask and urge for parents to listen to the children. Have that conversation with your children. Your child shouldn't be scared to come to you and talk. You have to be a parent, a mother or a father who communicate with the children. Secondly, fathers, as Gary said, have a very important role to play in this. Fathers, they have a very important role to play in this situation right here. Men need to stand up and speak. More men need to stand up and speak. This is not just a woman fight, you know. This is not just a woman fight. Men need to stand up and speak. And this is not no locker room banter where you have, you know, boys talking about this stuff. Listen, if I have a friend, I don't care how close that friend is to me, and he's coming and giving me that information about all of this nastiness, yo, that getting cut off. Not only that, that getting reported. And that's how we have to move. This is not a locker room banter. That's not a locker room talk. Men talk. Men don't talk like that. So if you know of situations like this, report it. Don't let it continue. It is damaging the whole generation. And these children are our future. It might sound cliche, you know, when they say, oh, the children are our future. Yes, the children are our future. They are the next prime ministers, the next presidents. They are the next doctors and nurses, and they are going to be who taking care of us. When we in a walking stick, they are going to be the ones who pay that big set of loans. They're the ones who have to pay it back. They are the ones. If you destroy the whole generation, we have no future. And that's what's happening. Anyway, we said a lot. But I still want to open the phone line if anyone wants to call in and chime in right here. It's very important that we continue this conversation. And I'd like to thank my guest, Gary. You can check out Gary in the morning time. Gary, if you're still there, what times are you on Boss?
Hard FM, 6 to 10 in the morning.
Hard FM, sorry, go ahead.
6 to 10 in the morning. Hot 98.
Hot 98. You can check out Gary on
6
radio.
to 10.
He has a 6 to 10. He has a really good radio program there. Dennis, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how could they reach you?
Well, anyone, they could always email me and Dennis and George at yahoo.com. I'm on Facebook, Dennis and Forrester George. They could find me on Instagram, also Denison Forrester George.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. And also, Charlene, I have all your contacts. If anybody wants to reach out to Charlene, just message me and I'll get you guys in touch with Charlene. And she need help. She need legal support. We need to get justice for that child as well. Guys, again, thank you so much for being a part of this program today. I'm going to leave you guys with another excerpt from the interview that we did with Mr. Jerry Edwin on this matter. All right. Just a little piece, and then we wrap up. Is the police investigator, the person who wrote up the charges, why would that information not be presented properly? Why would that police investigator not take down or present the accurate information as provided to them? And do you know if that information was provided? Because we spoke to the mother extensively.
Yeah.
She shared with us all the information that she said that she presented to court, or to the police. The young man pled guilty for on the charges here in Grenada. Why would the police investigator not present that?
Who knows what lurks in the hearts and mind of the incompetent police officer? The fact is that this should not even have been a summary offense. As we know now, the magistrate did not know that. What was presented to her was, and I find myself in the unenviable position of defending the magistrate when I'm always on the other side attacking their sentences. But the magistrate was presented with evidence of a summary offense. Ordinarily, this should have been an indictable offense making its way up to the High Court, where the High Court judge would have thrown the jail on top of this young man.
Yes.
But the magistrate did not know. This was not the evidence she had. So maybe as a fix, we have to train our police officers better. Look, the truth is,
get your PCR test in 30 minutes or less. Visit www.allprolab.com.
Feeling hungry, grab a snack. Caribbean food delight. Jamaican patties, light and flaky. Caribbean food delight. Taste the difference. Caribbean food delight. Grab a patty, take a bite. Caribbean food delight. Quick and easy, grab a patty, take a bite. Caribbean food delight.
Oh yeah. David Williams Funeral Service serve you with dignity and compassion as you mourn. Every day, we embark on the journey of life, and one day, the journey will end. It's on that day that you can entrust the celebration of life of your loved ones to David Williams Funeral Service. Call 718-291-3823.
Welcome to TD Bank, where you'll find the personalized attention you deserve and the legendary experience you expect. Let's do business. If you are a medical or dental practitioner, contact me to hear about our tailored lending solutions for residential mortgages, equipment purchases, practice-related commercial mortgages and refinance. Visit me at 500 Baychester Avenue to hear more about our full range of personal and small business banking solutions. See you soon.